Today about yoga and transdisciplinary research and mindfulness research. One of the most beautiful understanding of yoga is given by Philippe Thieriot, who described it as mental education through the gesture, une éducation du mental par le geste. So he situates us in the field of education, and I would like to bring two fields to this discussion. The mindfulness field, who dedicate to the research in meditation, and the transdisciplinary field. And I would like to thank two professors in this moment, Professor René Barbier, who creates an institute of the Wisdoms of the Word, Institut Supérieur des Sagesses du Monde, ISSM, and who is member of the Thieriot, who was unfortunately member of the Thieriot, the Centre International de Recherche et d'Études Transdisciplinaires, was created by the Professor Basarab Nicolescu, and who wrote a very important manifesto, the Transdisciplinary Manifesto. Transdisciplinary field is a field and a research field that seems to have a lot in common with the yoga field and also the mindfulness research, because those fields are not only scientific fields, they can be considered as seriously considered as scientific fields, but they are also an art of learning to be. And the research in the transdisciplinary field takes place in between, through, and beyond the disciplines. In between the disciplines, it's quite easy to explain. I think you will understand that a new knowledge can be born through the dialogue in between, for instance, anthropology and cinema. It is visual anthropology. So this huge discipline, very interesting, I studied in Brazil, visual anthropology, comes from photography, cinema, and anthropology together to understand better the images we see and to read those images in an original manner, in a meaningful manner. So in between the disciplines, I think everybody understands. Through the disciplines is more complicated. It means that we have a direction through a discipline. We would say in French vector, a vector that crosses the discipline. And what is this direction? This direction is given by UNESCO as learning to be. Learning to be is a synthesis of learning to do, learning to know, learning to live together. And it's very well explained in the UNESCO directions for this century in the education field. But what is learning to be? And that's why I spoke about Professor René Barbier and the SSM, the Superior Institute of Wisdoms of the Word. It's very hard to have an answer about what is learning to be. And that's why we need to sit and talk together and dialogue together a lot among all the wisdom traditions of the world, to research together about what is the best way of being in our societies. I have an hypothesis that the best way of being, it's learning to be. It's learning every day with life, with the others, with so being is connected with learning. And I was very amazed to find this definition in Philippe Thieriot research and in all his books, when he says the art of being is an everyday learning. And and beyond the disciplines. So the research in the transdisciplinary field takes place in between, through, and beyond the disciplines. Beyond the disciplines, there is a field, Rumi would say, I meet you there, a field of interrogation, of questions, of doubt, of mystery. And we are all in face of these questions, doubts, mysteries that there is beyond the disciplines. And here is that comes the mindfulness research, who always call to an empty space in between us and in us and among us, in order that we can communicate peacefully. And the empty space is also the title of a book of one of the members of Thieriot, Peter Brook. This empty space, this peaceful space, is also a space that we can find on the yoga path. So, I mean, there is a huge difference in between representing an authority, because we pretend to know everything, to know how to do, to know how to be, to know how to live with the others, and to say that we have an authority, in fact, because we learn our discipline or our research field as transdisciplinarity, for instance, in my case, for a longer time than the person that is listening to me. But we are both learning, right? And we are in the context of what I called, as a new topic, but a learning society. And when we stand in this place, in this research field of what there is in between, through and among the discipline, in the transdisciplinary field, we are in a position of belonging to a learning society. Our knowledge is open to mutual discovery and infinite search. And that is, for Professor Basarab Nicolescu, the real scientific spirit. And he gives the definition of the scientific spirit in his manifesto. In the yoga field, the guru in Sanskrit is the one who shows the light and spread the light. and shares the light. What is a metaphor? That he takes out of the shadow and reveals what was hidden. And in this way, he helps his students to acquire a better knowledge of their own minds and their own emotions. And when he do this, he shows very often our potential and our limits. He is someone who has a beginner's mind, to quote Zen master Suzuki, if I'm not wrong, who knows the mystery of the human nature and knows also all that he don't know about himself and the universe, and is therefore always open-minded to learn with others. For this reason, because yoga is a place of a beginner's mind, as in the mindfulness research, as in the scientific spirit of the transdisciplinary research. For this reason, yoga calls us to the humility as mindfulness research, as transdisciplinary research, and to face our ignorance. Even despite all the scientific and technological progress, we have a lack of control of our emotions. We seem to have little aptitudes on mutual understanding and dialogue. And we are very far to a peaceful condition on earth towards our learning society, who could allow a mutual evolution. That is to say that yoga below Shiva protection metaphorically, because I'm member of this Institut Supérieur des Sagesses du Monde. And Shiva is an image that wants to transmit an image of wisdom that is the dance. Shiva is the dance god. So under Shiva protection, the dance god, our beginner's mind attitude addresses to all disciplines. Yoga as mindfulness, as the scientific research in the transdisciplinary field, is a space for authenticity, mutual care, a space of difficult freedom, and as in this transdisciplinary attitude, an attitude of respect, tolerance, and exigency. Well, I would like to end this video. I ask you for a little bit more patience with a poem. I am a bit tense because it's not easy to relate all these fields together. And I wrote a little poem to help myself that is called Maybe Spring. Maybe spring, because if we can interact peacefully during a transdisciplinary and meaningful dialogue of knowing and being, if the exchange in between generations can be clear, quiet, kind, and true, we shall have the opportunity to see the emergence of cooperative structures as a global learning network in order to help our mutual evolution. And that was the ambition of Professor René Barbier. He was very optimist in thinking that our technological progress with the internet could allows us to go in the direction of this learning society. And that means that we are not on a hierarchical field, but in the dialogical field. And I would say for him, for Professor René Barbier, spring with no doubt, my lonely fellow, my companion of sorrow. There is always a blessing time for new and good ideas. There is no winter that reaches to its end on seeing a flourishing bonsai. Instead, our pain and mourn. We shall be a new morning, a spring in winter, receiving from all our deads for a fair cause, from a bright sky, the seeds of a better future. And in the middle of the tempest, while struggling for the equal rights, as to think freely from ourselves, we will be an everlasting smile. And even if we are tired and we cry sometimes, we shall be the immanent affection. And our obstinate steps will write the story of that spring. Well, thank you so much for your attention and your patience. See you very soon in the next video.